Alright guys, we're here with the Sunbird 1.6 meter glider, putting some LEDs on it. We're going to just pick up where we left off, which was on the red LED. We were just getting the second line attached to it. Now the thing is about this project is, it's the same as what you've seen every other time I do this, except that every time I do it, I do a little bit different application for trying to get wires through. This is a balsa wood aircraft, and it has an established history of frames, ow, that was hot, breaking, and so I got to be careful and cognizant of that. So what I might try to do is use my wire as an opportunity to then also reinforce a portion of the wing. Not 100% sure yet though. Okay, so you can see I'm just going to press it on there with a little bit of pressure, and then get it hot and let the solder push up against it. Okay. And my experience also has been when you do this, your solder joints are usually not super pretty because they're very small. And if you're concerned with making them pretty, you probably will, but then you'll melt the LEDs. Okay, so remember 220 ohms is what we used for green. So let's see how this looks. Okay, so it's live. My guess is the 220 ohms is going to drive this so that it's a little bit too hot. And I'm not going to be able to reach another LED, so I'm going to trim this. If I need to do a second LED, we're going to have to strip it back again anyway. Okay, so here we go. Oh yeah, that's not as bad as I figured it would be. That's pretty awesome actually. Doesn't look like much, but you guys remember that it wasn't as much when it was running on the strip either. So I'm just going to grab that resistor and see how hot it gets. Let's let it cook for a minute while I get these. This would be the green light again. Now one other trick, if you've got like one of these lighter greens or lighter colored LED or LEDs markers, just mark the backside, because the backside is going to be pushed into the frame of the vehicle, so you're not going to see it, whereas the front side will be seen. I've been really racking my brain trying to figure out how I'm going to handle lighting on my ASH 2026 when I get around to it, because the ASH 26 is just such a pretty plane, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get lights out, being that it's a built-up balsa wood wing. That means I've got a channel in the middle. Okay, so now let's test for temperature. Now remember, red is always going to be the hottest color. I can live with that. I can live with that too. Which means we can probably jump up to 470 ohms on this and make it so that it's about the same brightness. But let's just, for grins and giggles, I'm talking about on the, what is this thing doing here? That's one of those pieces that I was stripping off a wire and never made it into its home. Okay, so real quick, we're going to manage that negative wire, and we're going to put it over here so it's on its own strip. Then we're going to plug in the positive wire. Doesn't really matter where, as long as it gets plugged in the positive lead. We got a little glob of solder on the end, so we'll just trim that off. That allows us to slip into the breadboard just a little bit easier. Okay, so it's in there. And it's not on yet because I don't have the resistor plugged in. So the 220 ohm, this would be like an even smaller resistor. I think these are, the blue ones and the little brown ones are all 1/8 of a watt, if I recall. This might be even less, but I can't remember. Let's try 470 ohms and see how it looks. Okay, so remember we're going to go ground to the strip. Yeah, that's not looking so real terribly bright. See, 470 ohms compared to 220 ohms. So really what needs to happen here is we need to have a way brighter red one to make up for the difference. So this 220 ohms is probably not going to be enough Let's try 150. It's probably just going to get really hot. It's better. So 220 compared to 150. And as suspected, it's getting pretty hot. So what we can do is we can jump up the green yet again. So we'll go back to 220 because that seemed to be tolerating it just fine. They were using a 331 ohm resistor, but it was for 3 of them in series. So that changes things a lot. Let's try 1,000. Let's try 1K ohm. Between the ground and the supply. Jeez, it's still brighter. Isn't that just ridiculous, guys? Just for grins and giggles. Oh shoot, I put that in the wrong side, guys. Okay, so there's our 220 ohms. Here's our 1,000 ohms. Okay, so 1,000 compared to 220. I don't know if I'm going to call that satisfactory. Okay, I'm going up to a 1/4 watt resistor at 100 ohms, which means we'll have more power. Okay, so this is 220 ohms. So we'll just stick that back over in the 220 ohm slot. This one's 470 ohms. We'll stick that back. This one's going to be handling the power a little bit more efficiently for the red. Hey, look at that. They're getting closer. They're probably not going to be the same. They're not going to be close enough. But being that this is a bigger resistor, it's better capable of handling a little bit more power. Which is just weird. I don't really understand it. It's the bandwidth of the light, I know, is part of the what's going on there. Okay, so our next step is going to be to either install these or get a white light ready. So I think what we're going to do is maybe look at the white light real quick. And so far it's okay. The reason that light's turning off is because I'm making and breaking contact here. It's not because anything's broken. Neither of them feel especially hot. I do like these Hobbyking lights so far. They're good. And you get that onto the plane. It's probably going to be okay. It's maybe not super aggressively bright. But like I said, on this plane, we're not probably going to be looking for, flying 2,000 feet away from us. If it's twilight, this will give us enough orientation to get to the ground. And if I want to really go crazy, then what I'll do is something like this, where I do like 3 LEDs in a row like that. But then I can still run those off a receiver level voltage. It works really nice. I've done that on a number of different planes. But then like on the Consendo, this is the Consendo here, I've just done a big blob of glue and they work really well. So these are going to be our white lights. I don't think I'm going to use the Hobbyking white just because I have tons of these. I kind of got to work through some of them. I did buy them in case I want to try them somewhere. So now you get to see the ridiculous process to get these out. So we cut that off. We can lay this aside for now. Those strips. Come and lay all this stuff aside. We can probably unenergize that circuit so as not to drain the battery unnecessarily. Okay, so the first things first, get something like this. Not enough. That's right, I was using these. So see how that opens up and then there's a wafer in the middle? It's just like those strips that we were just working on from Hobbyking. The difference is these ones are like really strong. But you'll be surprised how small the LEDs actually are when we get down to it. There's also some extra controls in here, because these would have run on AC, I believe. See, there's a diode. I take it back. These things did have a DC adapter. They had a DC power supply that went with them. That's right. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now you can try to break the board like this. And if you get lucky, it'll break neatly. I usually get about 1 or 2 for every 3 that I'm separating, because they're just so easy to break. But look at that. Look how small that LED is. And so rather than desoldering these, I've learned that it actually works pretty effectively to just cut up the board around it. And so the best way would be I use a pair of side cutters or dikes or something like this, and I can trim the board away from it. See how that works? It works really nice. And this is a multi-layer board, silicone. See, there's your control circuit. Just be careful which side you're cutting on. See how this blade is going to push up, that blade's going to push down. You want to make sure the LED ends up on the top side so it doesn't get squished when you work on this type of LED or when you're trying to take it off of a board. In our case, we're actually going to keep a superficial amount of the board. Okay, so we got that cut. Now we're going to go up like this right here and just trim that. And that's what we were left with. The only thing I want to try to do is get one cut horizontally so I can lose some of the material behind this. And this is always the one where you screwed up. Okay, so we separated the back. You can see that's split in half now. So we lost most of the material behind there, and these things are really easy to work with. Let's just plop that on there, and then we got to get some wires. And since this is going to be a tail light, we need to probably grab a new set of wires. And I'm just going to grab the whole bundle and just figure out what color seems to make sense. Doesn't really matter which color, but it's nice to have a light and a dark color. This is a yellow and black plane, so why don't I use yellow and black? Yellow and black. Okay, there we go. So then I'm just going to take and hold on to this bundle of wires. Oh, I knew one would fall off. And this is what fell. So that's going to be our wire to get forward to back so we can energize our tail light. Jeez, having some problems with that stuff today. So we should be able to get rid of these right now. But we still need these. Okay. Got the one end tinned. Just don't lose the light either. It's very easy to do that. So now this one's a little tougher because we don't know polarity yet, so we have to figure out polarity. And that's actually not as hard as you might think. Really all we have to do is just touch the leads on one side and see if the light goes with a resistor in there, and then if it doesn't, then you just flip them around. And the cool thing about that is you don't have to worry about burning out the LED. Okay, so that side's not attached. Can't quite get it. Okay, so that should have made the joint. Okay, so now the other side, which is here, we're going to do the same thing. Just going to bend that. I'll take and actually hold that where I want it to belong. And I kind of twist it so that it's got pressure up against the... Sometimes you can take and bend it down and then fold it back up and it'll spring into position. You see? I'm sorry, guys. Don't worry, it's not extremely awkward or anything. Wait, it's exactly that. Okay, so we got LEDs soldered up there. So now we'll take and, when you're sliding your fingers, you hold it up here so that this doesn't ever translate pressure to your solder joint. Lay it on the other side there. Grab your strippers. Strip back a little bit on both your wires. Okay, so we'll go ahead and power up our circuit again. Now remember, we're just trying to test for polarity now, so let's just assume that we got it right, which is not going to be true necessarily. You should see it's flashing. It's a little weird. So we plugged in there. And then we'll come back across this here. That is really weird that it's flashing. Not sure why it's flashing like that. That's really weird. But let's go ahead and get our own resistor on here. Now we can get away with a bigger resistor on this one, but not 100% sure I care that much because these ones tend to run really nice on pretty much whatever. So maybe I'll use a 470 ohm larger one. So we'll plug that into the negative side, run it over to one of my lines here, make sure we don't short it across anything. And we got lucky on the polarity, so we can go ahead and land this right there. Man, that's a warm baby. I felt that when I bumped into it. Warm is okay, hot is not. Hot will definitely prematurely fail. Okay, so you see it's working, but just barely. That's weird. I didn't expect that. I wonder if this is actually bigger than I thought it was. I'm just going to put it back where I got it from for now. I don't want to have to... Yeah, that's got purple in it. I guess that would be right for color code. Let's just put 100 ohm in there. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's your 100 ohm. That must be like 47,000 ohms or something. Look how bright that is. That's like insanely bright. And it's not hot at all. But you can see what I'm talking about there. Compared to these two. Little twerps. Like you can barely even see the green. Doop, doop. But the thing that's really nice about that is you got an extremely bright white light. What's good about having a bright white light that's pointed at you as you fly away? Well, let's just put it this way. When you're flying away from yourself, it's kind of handy to know where you're going. For instance, if it's getting away from you, you'll know. If it's coming towards you, the green and the red will get brighter and more intense as you get closer. Well, this is going to get less intense as it gets away from you. That might be a little much, though. I'm going to actually put that 100 ohm back. I'm going to step it up to, let's try 220 ohms. Now this is not a 1/4 watt resistor though, so it could be still pretty intense. Oh, that's plenty good. Much better match with the other ones now. I like it. I like it, guys. That's what we're doing. So anyway, without further ado, I got things to do and people to see, and this video is probably going to be over at this point. So when we come back to you for part 3, we will be doing the installation of the actual, the mechanical installation of the lights. And I hope you choose to keep watching the series, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.